Welcome to another episode of Wood Couture video podcast. Today in our show, we have Luca Franco, CEO of Luxury Frontier, a friend, an explorer, a marathon runner, and a guy that have lived in 10 countries and traveled in more than 90. A purely and utterly transformational podcast today. Welcome to the show, Luca.
Thank you for such a great introduction. Ciao, Filippo.
I'm very pleased you took the time to come. And for those of friends that don't know you, just a 2-minute summary. And you started in architecture, and then from there you went on to, I would say, president of LLPI, and then president of DCPI, owner and entrepreneur with Via Strozzi, and then 2010 you created Luxury Frontier. I'm all right on the summary. It is about right.
On the resume, yes. Then it's all about passion, I think.
Fantastic. But the key question, what we want to know is, where did your journey start? Where is Luca from in all this journey? Tell us about your background.
As you can hear from the accent, I'm Italian, and I cannot read of my Italian accent. However, I'm passionate. I'm an adventure seeker. I'm explorer, like you mentioned. I love rewilding, and I love experiences, contrast. I've never been a traveler. I've never been a tourist. I've been always a traveler. I always wanted to be a local. And this passion for experiential travel, characterized me since the beginning, since when nobody was talking about experiential travel or transformational travel or these other terminologies. I don't have I have roots in Italy, but I'm citizen of the globe. Let's say I'm on the run all the time. And but now in a more meaningful way, in a more sophisticated way, and looking for some legacy and build some legacy. So that's my next mission, let's say.
Is this desire of transforming the world or transforming people's experiences come from your childhood? Is there something in your childhood, an event, let's say a failure or a success that led you to eventually one day say, I want to transform people's lives?
I'm not sure about that, but I always, from the beginning, I always want to have immersive journeys. So often travel alone as a solo, because anybody who could travel with me was an interference with my full immersion with the locals. And so I always dress like a local, eat like a local, eat with my hands and with the local hands technique. So for me, it was always about be a local, and but really embracing the local. And what it's really, I think something changed my life when people say, oh, we need to give back. And the reality is, if you give back, means that you stole it from that person, that community. So it's I think is a game changer for me. It's really embracing the local community, and in a very proactive way, but in a very meaningful way, and partner with the locals.
Right. So the community, you refer always a local, I would imagine the community for you is very important. Is it sounds like that, you feel the desire of implanting roots, wherever you are, big or small, locality and experience. And what is that you're looking for when you're going to place? You travel in more than 90 countries.
It's always about looking for the spirit of a place. In Latin, we call it genius loci. And so it's really, doesn't matter where you go, there's always the spirit of a place. And so when we do architecture, when we design an experience or design a box as an experience, is all about contextualization. It's all about embracing that sense of place and spirit of place, and that it can be in relation to heritage, culture, traditions, biodiversity, wildlife, and so on. So everything that we do is always, that I aim is always about reading, learning, and get inspired by the context and nature and culture, and that creates the layers of the narrative that we can bring to fruition to the guest.
I saw a picture of you in I think it's your website, one of the magazine. You were like in Peru, or it looks like in one of these Latin American countries. You were sitting among the communities, the ladies of the community, of the tribe, and describe for the people that never tried that. How does it feel? What do you feel when you are in that context? What is Luca feeling?
Right now I'm feeling, I have chills. It's so unique. It's I really literally, I have goosebumps now just thinking about that moment, and I think you need to let it go. You need to don't build the barriers and be approachable, like you mentioned before, and be very mutual. Has to be mutual, because every nature or people or your team has to be always a mutual, respectful, with the empathy. So that the empathy, I think, is a major change. It has been for me, but also for the world, and now with this COVID acceleration, and what is triggering is, I think there's a big change where there's not going to be a consumption travel, or it's being replaced by empathetic travel, conscious travel, where people are really looking for having an immersive but empathetic relationship with the context, people or community, or that when we travel. And so it's a three-way empathy process between the host, the guest, and the community.
Right. I was very intrigued because, to be honest, I don't know your world. The good things you do as well as you do. I'm more curious, what you do, because I'm probably experimenting to learn what you do. But I saw in one of the articles that you mentioned the name of Luke Bales, the chairman of Singita, and you said, "This is my mentor," and I would like you to tell our audience, why you consider him your mentor, and what values do you share in common with him?
He always has been inspiring, and when I didn't know anything about experiential travel or safari or adventure, like 10 years ago, because it was not my industry. It was my passion, but it was not my industry. I was coming from the more traditional hospitality. One of my first calls I was curious, as you said, and one of my first calls was with Luke Bales. And out of the blue, he accepted my call, very humble, no ego, and shared his experience. And he's clearly is a leader, visionary in the industry. And I kept still notes of that call. That was 10 years ago. And now I'm speaking like every couple of weeks, either weeks, I speak with him, and we're exploring how to do something together, and we have plans for future, etc. And I'm telling him I still have those minutes, and those minutes was really about, saving, about biodiversity, so conservation, community, and where hospitality is only one of the layers and is a way to sustain the conservation project. And lately, finally, in the last couple of years, we were able to aim this type of project, to embrace all of these components. So it's been very inspiring, and every time that I speak with him, It's truly inspiring. However, I have a lot of mentors, no, in life, because it's always about be humble, curious, and try to take lessons and from anyone and everybody contributes a piece of a puzzle of who you are and what you aim.
The question I have for you is obviously you fostering talent because you have a very good team both in Chicago and in Johannesburg, and how, you know, two of your projects, you know, the Camp Sarika by Amangiri in the US and Naraya tented camps in Costa Rica are probably defined two of the top 10 best and the most awarded, experiential places, let's say, defined by the press. And the question I have is, what does it take to create these places? I mean, this is not the normal design. This is not the normal concept. This is transforming people's life. How do you go about it? In start from the beginning, how do you go about creating these award-winning places?
Thank you. We have a process. The process is when we go to a place, to whatever any new project, we go without any preconception, and we go and really feel the place, or that spirit of a place that I was saying before, and be in a very absorption mode and learn about all the layers of the context, from nature, from about diversity, from heritage, traditions, community, of course, seasonality and so on, the target market. And really the key is to create something that is contextual, and two, that address every challenge. So every challenge, like weather conditions, high winds, or humidity, or rainforest, or snow load, it's all are just design challenges that can be addressed in one way or another. And that's so contextualization is really important. It is also about create something that is sustainable and is in balance with the environment. And so it's about looking for the right natural resources, what is available in the area. For us also, why those projects got an award or are best listed, not because are the best design, but because can be the most memorable for the guest. And usually these travel awards or these best hotels in the world, etc., are based on consumers, on guest surveys, and they don't. And usually, there are all these experiential projects are always in the many of the first 10, not for the design, but because are about memorable guest journeys. And so the other very first step that we do is to understand what the guest experiential script is when they come to the property, to the destination. And for us, it's about creating the contents versus designing the box. And usually the architects always design the box, then the operator 3-6 months before the opening will say, okay, what do we do? And we flip the coin. For us is define the contents, understand what the guest will do, and then in a very clear level of details, and then creating the box, whatever form and shape, that doesn't matter. But that box is part of that experiential journey.
I'm here fascinating, Luca. You got goosebumps before when I've asked you how you feel being among your people, I call it, the people that make it happen together with you, the community. And I get goosebumps listening to you about how I cannot imagine myself how do you recruit people to work for you? Because having a passion that you have, having the vision that you have, because as you say, I go to the place first. and you want to know first how he feels. What you look into people when they come work for you? What do you look in that individual? They say this guy fits within our organization.
I think of course, expertise and integrity. Is important, but I think the spark in the eyes. Wow. We need to be passionate and aligned. But you see, I have again my cheers again. But it's the spark in the eyes is if you are really tuned in the right way between each other, and also with the different colleagues. I think that's the key.
Have you ever been in a place and when you got there, you got emotional? Have you ever, have you reached that point? Say, I almost have tears in my eyes. I say, wow, I can imagine somebody, experiencing this.
To be true, I get. I get, transformed every time that I go to a place because I let the boundaries go. And so there is always this straight immersion and connection. It's a connection with the place. So many times I would like to move. Many times at the end of a trip, I say, I would love to move here. But there are so many other places where every time I go to a new place, I want to move there. So the only way is keep stable where I am in Chicago, where the family is, and then keep traveling and having these amazing journeys that I'm having at the moment.
You saw it coming, right? Because you're describing that you saw experiential travel coming in 2010 when you started your journey with Luxury Frontier, and I think there is a talent. You have my admiration. I think you talented because you saw it coming. But let me play a bit of devil's advocate. There are people out there that, by definition, they say inherently tourism is experiential by definition. Sure. But and some other says, there are different layers. But what's your response to those people that say, okay, why is different what you're creating? You say tourism and travel is an experience. So what more or different do you create that is completely different than the standard definition?
Yeah, the travel is experience. It's all about it's all about think what is next, think forward, and I think it was very at that time. At that time, what was the definition of luxury? At that time, years ago, 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, luxury was appearance versus experience, and that's where I started looking at focusing on meaningful. In the beginning, it was just experience. Then it was going to be meaningful experience, transformative experience, and was about impactful experience. So all this evolution of what luxury is, and it has been in the last 10 years. And so, for example, here in the States or in Europe or now everywhere, everybody's talking about glamping. And while it's an amazing word for SEO objectives or results, performance, I always try to stay away from that terminology, but I'm associated to. But people think that just putting a fancy tent, pitching a fancy tent somewhere in the farm or in the jungle makes the experience or makes the project. It's absolutely is not true. the tent is only, the tent or treehouse or whatever form and shape is only one layer of the whole experience. And the experience has to be about sustainable, has to be alternative, it has to be contextualized, has to be meaningful. It's not about giving, a guest goes to the property and say, okay, give you a map, they give you the map and say, okay, go right and left, and you go, and you are on your own, on your hike. It's about curate the experience in a meaningful way. The guests want to learn in these days, want to be inspired, they want to be rebalanced with nature and with and connected. So I think going back to your initial question, that always go on the tangent. It's really important to understand what's next. And 3-4 years ago was very clear already that sustainability it's not enough. Everybody was talking about sustainability, and it was the biggest cultural consumer behavior shift. Yes, it was, but there was a lot of greenwashing. And what the reality is, sustainability is not enough anymore, because you cannot sustain a dying system. It's not sustainable by definition. And so the only way to create sustainable ecosystem is to regenerate, is to to improve a place, to leave a place in a better condition than you found it. And that is about regenerative travel. And I think I saw very clear 3-4 years ago that was about happening, about rewilding, regenerative travel, but nobody was talking about. And now with COVID, we had the 5 years acceleration. Everybody now talks about regenerative travel. So my long story short is really to try to understand what is next, what the guest will want, what the traveler will want in the future.
Do you see a saturation is in the human beings? Because what you say is amazing, is that particularly in hospitality, we saw any kind of brands, any kind of hotel shape, form, entertainment, and we forget the basics, Mother Nature. And I think what you're saying is, is quite interesting, because to me it feels like that, it's almost going back to say, hey, we forgot where we come from. We come from Mother Nature, and this is the most treasurable thing. And the question I have for you is, there are quite few industries that did quite well with sustainability, and in terms of commitment and trying to basically, do something. Let's put it in that way. Do you think the hospitality is doing enough for it? For sustainability?
Certainly not. The opportunity to do something meaningful and impactful, the tourism has huge opportunities, especially in this regenerative rewilding. So where I see, where in our position, we have a responsibility of education, of educated people and community, but also the traveler, and investors and operators to be impactful, to take care of the Mother Nature. You mentioned before, we are nature. The land we don't own the land. The land owns us. And that is something, it's very basic, but we needed to be conscious, and that we needed to understand that. And so we cannot abuse land. We want to be inspired, we want to learn, and we want to take care of nature, because nature is taking care of us as well. And so I think that's the tourism, and all the different tourism entities, authorities, with on top, we need a leadership. We can be very impactful, but we need a leadership first, and that's what we didn't have in the last for years in the States. And so hopefully that is a game changer. So the key is to now that with COVID, I see COVID like a wake-up call of Mother Nature saying, guys, this doesn't work. It's not sustainable. You are destroying the planet, and wake up. And I think all of us, the entire globe, had this opportunity to think, to understand what is meaningful to people and to us, and to take care of the planet. So I hope we don't go back to the normal like it was before, and we learn some lessons.
There are, it's quite interesting because there is some probably Hill advised or Hill informed professional out there that sustain or claim that sustainability has present sometimes a poor return on investment. But I read quite a few of your article, and I saw some, you saying, hey, some of the things I get involved with, some of my projects get internal rate of return that can go from 20 to 30%, which are, incredible. So what's your response to the ignorance that says sustainability don't drive returns? You have a lot of experience, and you create places that have got, fantastic returns. So what's the message?
I always focus from the beginning, I don't know, from my propensity, but I always focus on projects that are high yield, low impact, and high touches, and the high social impact. And that's the model that I wanted to focus on. That is the model that works in Africa. Because that's the only way to travel with low impact, high or leave no trace impact, and high yield and high touches, because less is more. And though that market can pay high tickets to have an immersive experience alone in the middle of the remote, but that model is working, but also not working, because the projects are small, have no critical mass, and usually are in remote places. That means higher cost for building infrastructure or logistic cost. And then because they're small, they don't have a critical mass, and so they cannot have access to global distribution reservation systems. So those key business drivers, I took them as those considerations. I took them as my key business drivers into the new business model. And my new model is go to existing established resorts. That's one of the models, is go to established resorts, plug and play experiential rooms into an existing infrastructure amenity, like Amangiri project and in Utah, and then plug into leverage infrastructures, amenities, marketing, management, etc. And this project can have a payback in less than 2 years. Don't need a ramp up to get to stabilized operation. Usually these experiential projects generate 20 to 40% premium versus regular inventory. So the payback is in 2 years, and after five years, there is already 40-50% return of investment if it's as an add-on to an existing property. So I think it's possible to create. It's about be smart, but it's possible to create highly sustainable projects that are high yield, low impact, and high touches, and people there's no price resistance. People are willing to pay more for something unique and with a purpose.
Right. So what you just proved is that sustainability can provide superior return on investment, because in my professional experience, I never seen a hotel that pay back in 2 years. So what you're proving is that there is the business model to do that, in your field of expertise, and I'm glad to hear that, because I believe what you do, and I believe that is what you create is beyond just the experience. Is also commercially viable propositions that, whether we like it or not, is everybody look at that. But is definitely a fantastic news to hear from you that 2 years payback period and sustainable returns. Also, the question I have for you is this one: but why does it have to be luxury? Is because the experience is the environment, is the place, is the emotions, your good bumps. Why does it have to be luxury?
It's luxury. It's about the definition. Luxury, it's experience, not appearance. So what is luxury? I mean, luxury changed, the definition of luxury changed a lot in the last couple of decades. I prefer to spend less in capex and more in opex, and maybe 4-star product, but the experiences have to be 6-star. That's what makes the difference. There is a project in mountain lodges of Peru, in Chile, in Peru, mountain lodges of Peru, in Peru, that is a camps and lodges, a circuit of camps and lodges. You go from camp to camp, hiking, horseback riding, and the lodges are 4-star level. Nothing special in a respectful way, but the experiences are outstanding. How they curated experiences are, you have chills because it's fully immersive in the environment. In the luxury is about push your self-confidence boundaries over the edge in a safe and protected environment, and that is true luxury. Then you pay. There's no price resistance for that. To do something that you don't do every day and learn something. So I think you can go with 4-star product, but with 6-star experiences. Of course, great F&B, and beds are important, because when you are outdoor all day and in the elements, you want to go home or go back to the place and take a warm shower and have a really comfy bed. But this is true luxury. That's the luxury, I think.
Yeah, I read in a magazine, and very much is in line with what Coco Chanel, which is, although there is fashion, but she used to say, if it's not comfortable, it's not luxury. So what I'm trying to say to you, if it's not different, it's luxury. She never talk about if it doesn't look good, it's not luxury. If it's not comfortable. So again, emotions, feelings, exactly what you created. You describe it in a different context, but very much aligned with that. And very interesting. And since we are both Italians, I would say to you, is there anything Italian that you carry in your heart when you travel?
Yeah, I speak with my hands all the time.
So body language, let's call it.
Body language, and everybody, I always make fun of my English and of my French or my other Spanish, and people say, "Oh, but you speak better than you speak." You say, "Yeah, but your English is better than my Italian." There are people, so I make a lot of jokes about my Italian accent, my way to body language, talk with the hands. I think it's a warm way to express yourself.
I have another question, Luca. For the more practical things, is obviously they see you as a busy individual. CEO of a company that create outstanding places. When you lose focus, I know you're very passionate, and you quote in one of your interview, "My passion is my work, and my work is my passion." So passion and work seems to go quite well. And obviously, family always, because we're all Italians and we're all human beings. Family is important and is our comfort. And but what do you do when you lose focus? Well, or when you have less focus, what brings Luca back to on track to say, yes, I need to make it?
I go out for a run, take my shoes and go out running. And if the elements are harsh, even better. If it's snow or wind or rain, heavy rains, it's better because I need to feel the elements and connection with nature. And that brings back to the thinking, the spark, the caliber, the balance myself.
I know you like marathons, and why no sprints?
I did it in the past, but when I was 15, 20 years old. But for me, marathon is about, in the beginning was interesting enough. 20 years ago was about people. So I was running New York marathons or other Chicago, London, all of those big marathons. For me, it was about to give me five to all the kids and the policemen and all the people around. So it was a people immersion. Then I did many of those, and then 10 years ago I started saying, no, I need to do something new. And so I stopped running on the road in the big cities and running off-road. And I went to the North Pole, I went to around volcanoes in Chile or in other places. And it was about, in the desert, it was about maybe with 200 people only. And it was about myself again, but with the environment. So it's always about the connection. And now I'm doing still marathon just in the wild. So it's not you mentioned about my business is my passion, my job is my passion is my job, but also is my sport, because it's all about nature and adventures and business and then a way to sustain the team and sustain my family.
So I in the context of sports, and you're talking about sports, and all your creations at the moment they're all in wildlife, amazing places, places with views that are outstanding, undescribable. And do you see Luxury Frontier taking transformation into extreme sports, and can that be compatible with what you do?
I don't know if it's extreme, it's the right word. Sorry, I think it's immersive, or I think the extreme in a sense that push the guests to over their comfort zones, and so, for example, create a situation where the guests can do via ferrata, for example, and that people don't do that every day, and or they even dream to climb a wall. But with the right gear, the right training, it's possible to do. And so I think the key, it can be soft adventures or hard adventure, but really always push the guests to over their comfort zones. And that sense of accomplishment that the guest will have is, that's the true luxury. It will be memorable, it will be remarkable, it will be a way for them to say, go back and share their amazing experience with other people. So I think it has to be a contextual, it has to be, you have to provide an experience that is contextual in that specific environment, and then push your comfort zones.
It's quite interesting, as I watched recently an interview Larry King with Floyd Mayweather, and he asked me a very fantastic question, and he said, and I think he can be easily your customer. He has the wealth to afford these places, and he asked him one question. He said, obviously, with the wealth you have, you can buy anything, but is there one thing that is there one thing that you treasure that says is priceless? And he said, my freedom. And and it's quite interesting, because in one of your quote, you indirectly saying, that when people visit the place that you create with the local community, the environment, when they go back home, they feel change. Their life is being transformed, right? But the question I have is, do you think that they feel free when they come back? They feel free from the demons, from the day-to-day life, from the things that don't mean nothing. Do you think they feel a sense of freedom?
Yeah, I think freedom is freedom. Yeah, I think so, because we are all wild. There are different. Freedom can be different things for different people, and we are all wired up with this technology, phones, and computer. We are all wired. So freedom is also go to a place and be able to unwild yourself, and so disconnect. And disconnect to connect. That is, I think, is freedom. And if you allow, and people usually in the beginnings, I needed to be connected even on my holidays. But after a few hours or a day, the day after, usually they are able to put the phone away and be able to disconnect. And that disconnection is a way to connect with themselves, that is with their soul and spirit, connect with the environment, nature, and feel the balance, inspired, and connect with your partners or your family, your friends. And that is freedom, is to remove those links, those chains that our day-by-day lives built around us.
Yeah, I know you started your career, let's say, after Italy, you went to South Africa. And I remember Mandela used to say, everybody thinks that everything is impossible until somebody does it. And is there a place in your bucket list that Luca says, I know everybody thinks that that is going to be impossible to make it happen, but I will? Where that place be?
First of all, I think impossible, I change it to I am possible. Impossible, I am possible. So yes, that's my attitude. I'm not sure is what the place will be. It's always the next place is the new challenge and the new focus. So I don't have a specific place. I'm curious. Now everybody's talking about Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We have several projects there, etc. And what's fascinating me there was everybody was saying it was impossible a few years ago, and even the Saudis were saying it's impossible. And now it's possible. It's coming to. And what it's amazing out there is to be part of a cultural renaissance in the making. And is the whole vision is about people. Is about the 2030 Saudi vision and about people legacy. So that is a mission impossible, but they are doing it. So I think that is certainly a destination where we are focusing personally and professionally a lot strategically. There are other destinations like Pakistan that nobody talks about, but it's absolutely low, fantastic, and it's becoming safe as well. That is our next frontiers. And so the idea of luxury and frontiers is always looking for the next edge of the next frontiers.
So it's not only transforming the lives of people, but transforming nations, because you can put nation into a map that nobody ever thought about it. What's your views on that?
I flow very low. I'm very humble. So the trigger for me, the motivation 10 years ago was to create something that was meaningful to people and to the environment. And if that is a drop in the bucket, or a big destination, it's so important to contribute, small or big, it doesn't matter, but it's to make some contribution.
Do you think you achieve your goal of building a legacy?
It's not yet, but I'm working on it. I think that's what moves my butt in the morning and say, okay, that's what I wanted to do. And it's all important to have a mission, and there are a lot of plans that I have that are really exciting me and gives me the chills. And so I need to keep moving.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, it's never been a place that on paper looks good, and then when you went there, you didn't get the goosebumps you're getting everywhere else?
Of course, there are places that there is no energy. There is no, you feel it is a dump, or but I think it's about building the right expectations as well. If you go to a place with preconception and with high expectations, you for sure you get disappointed. So if you go there with in a humble way and ready to take it and absorb, then I think you always see a positive side.
It's quite interesting because you talk about, I love the way you describe your journey. I mean, it's a very instinctive. And it sounds like you're using a lot of your gut feeling. You go there with no preconception. You just go there and truly experience it, and then make up your mind. Am I right in thinking that? Because the way you describe it, you make it so simple. I just take a plane, go there, and then I think about it. You don't go there with any, all of us in a normal job, we do tons of preparation. We probably think too much. And, you just simply go there. What's the first reaction when you get to the place? You look at it, what do you feel? You see it, it's just, I'm curious, I want to be in your mind. If I was in your mind, I look through your eyes, what do I see?
Yeah, I mean, it's that I think the key is to have the willingness and to absorb and to open, to capture the essence of the place. But we also run a business, and so we build process. We need to have a governance. We have shareholders that we needed to I needed to maximize their return of investment. I have a very, very passionate and sophisticated investors that came on board 3 years ago. And so that light that I started 10 years ago, 3 years ago, changed, and I had to be focused and professional and bottom line driven. So there are all components, of course, that they have to be kept in consideration.
At the very beginning, you described in Hotel Magazine, in your interview, you said at the very beginning, it wasn't that easy to make it work as a business. You had to push very hard. What was it because you didn't understand what the probably people wanted, or people didn't understand exactly what the real message you're getting out there?
I think it was, I started early. People call it pioneering or something. I had the vision, and I was expressing that vision, that concept, capitalizing on essential travel trends and as an asset value enhancement solutions. And I was going to all these top executives of traditional hospitality brands or institutional investors, and all of them said, Luca, these concepts are nice, but they can be only in Africa. And it's not going to work in America or in other parts of the world. Yeah, good luck with that. And then what is interesting is with most of those people and those brands, those companies, or those destinations, we have some projects. And we were able to get projects maybe 6 years later or 8 years later. I have now leads that still have been cultivating 10 years ago, since 10 years, and now they wanted to do something. But we were too early. With some ideas, some concepts, and people, and those companies didn't realize that the consumer market is changing and is going exponentially towards experiential. But what is really interesting now, there is not just the consumer market for the last 10 years, but finally now there is also the capital market converting, focusing on the same. And so and this conversion between consumer and capital market will all triggered by, accelerated by the pandemic, will create so many new opportunities, so many new projects related to nature-driven, outdoors, wellness, with a purpose. And so it will be very interesting time for the next, I think for the next 3 years before the traditional towns will come back. So there is really a window to build a business now, and then it will grow and grow exponentially thereafter. But big hotels will, of course, it will come back. And I see that probably in the next 3 years' time. So
do you think
this is the momentum for us?
So from here to the next 20 years, do you think that in 20 years' time, we can still have this conversation, or would experiential travel be gone by then? Where do you see the future?
I think, they will call something else, because that's how, and so from experiential travel, I call it transformational travel, then now regenerative travel, then is rewilding. So I think it will be very empathetic travel. And I think that's the way, with the purpose. I think that's the way. It's not going to work just to say is how to do it. So it's the greenwashing hopefully ends this year. We'll stop with the greenwashing. And for example, just it's not about not having the plastic straw when you have a drink. It's about, that's the greenwashing. It's about understanding where the alcohol is prepared, comes from, where the fruit is harvested, where. So there are so many other layers that are important. So I think the future, the present and the future will be about a meaningful, transparent purpose, and travel with a purpose. That's it.
Yeah. It breaks my heart, and I have a different feeling having to say that I've got a very final question for you. But because I can stay here talking to you all day, but I know you're very busy, and you have a lot of great places that hopefully one day I can afford to stay. But I've one question, which is, because we talked about a lot of the future. So if I had a giant white billboard in the middle of Times Square, what message would you write on it? What would be the message that Luca write on this giant billboard?
I have a choose about that. I would write Lee, 2 dots, wild. Lee wild.
Rewind.
Lee wild.
New wild.
Wild.
Okay. Yeah.
Lee wild, run wild. I think that's the future. You ask me about the future. That's the future. Is go back to what is to original habitats, to what it was in origin, and learn from nature, but really bring back help nature to go back to what it was before. So I think it's the wild, and the wild is not just for environments. The wild is your spirit and your soul. So I think I put the wild.
One day I will do it. I will put a giant billboard and I'm going to get to write it for you. Luca, thank you very much for being on our show today. It's been a true transformational experience, I would say, and being with you. And I hope the people that are going to listen to this, they're really enjoying it because and I invite everybody to stay one of your places and perhaps after that to call you and say, hey, you are right. I hope so. I will try. So. Thank you very much. It's been amazing. Thank you.
I thank you very much. Thank you, Filipp. Ciao.
Ciao. Speak to you soon. Ciao, Luca.